In October 2022, I finally got the S2000 out for another track day, with my dad co-driving. We had an opportunity to do a track day at Silverstone and grabbed it with both hands. It was an awesome day, one I'm never going to forget, and there were some awesome cars out on track with us. As test days are so expensive, lots of people use track days as an alternative, from race-prepped MX-5s through to a swarm of Ginettas. Present and correct with a normal set of caterers and some flavour of atom on track. As well as the really fast stuff, there are a couple of race-prepared Citroen C1s for the City Car Cup or C1 Racing Club. But one of my big takeaways was that I really want to get to play in an Alpine A110 at some point. My first ever real track day was with Nick from the real Gran Turismo in S2000, and that day is why I actually have one. They've got an awesome selection of cars, and the driving coaching was absolutely amazing. It was great to see them out on track, and if you're thinking of trying track days, I'd highly recommend giving them a look, even though they don't have an S2000 on their books anymore. So, a little bit about the track. Silverstone is nearly 6 kilometres long, which is 3.6 miles in old money. That makes it a long track with 18 corners, so it's not kind to beginners. If you're new to the circuit, the national pit straight into Copse is very easily confused with the international pit straight into Abbey. It's easier if you've had a decent amount of sim time, of course, but that's not something that everyone gets a chance to do. Next up, I'll do a run through one of the earlier, slower laps of the day. The start-finish line is on the national pit straight. That leads onto the fast right-hander of Copse. The track day pits exit to the right here, so you need to be careful if you're making way for traffic. It can complicate moving over to the right for the entry to Maggots. The Maggots-Beckett complex was a ridiculous amount of fun to drive, and I would happily go back and do that sequence of corners again and again and again. At the end, you exit through Chapel Corner onto Hanger Straight. We ended up hitting a top speed of around about 121 miles an hour on Hanger Straight. We could have gone faster with the top up, but what fun would that have been? At the end of Hanger is Stowe, a medium to fast right-hander with a lot of runoff. A lot of the day was spent with me trying to work out exactly how much speed we could carry through. At the bottom of the hill after Stowe is the Vale chicane. The right side of the track moves in a surprising amount and can catch you out. I was never quite happy with the amount of speed I carried through Vale, but Club is another really fun corner. Balancing the car on the throttle and just carrying as much speed through there as you can. Now we're moving on to the international pit straight, which leads into the fast right-hand corner of Abbey. Due to traffic, I was significantly off the pace I'd like through Abbey and the following farm curve. Next up is the complex of Village, the Loop and Aintree. I was never totally happy with my speed or lines through here, and I'd really like to revisit the circuit with an instructor to try and get the best out of it. Going through Aintree and onto Wellington Straight was another really satisfying part of the track. I found Brooklands into Luffield as a very technical and fun bit of track, taken slowly here because of traffic catching us. Luffield is a real treat, feeling the balance of the car on the throttle and trying to carry as much speed through as possible. It was a place where you tend to get cars catching up, and running wide wasn't always an option. Then you go through Woodcote to finish off the lap. Next up, I thought I'd touch lightly on how we've got the car set up. The current focus is extended time on track. Track days are expensive, the more time on track the better, as track and insurance costs are fixed. And yes, I missed the apex badly here. The S2000 has standard induction and tune, and a Tanabe Touring Medallion exhaust with Burke high flow cat. I'm running a Moroso baffled sump to avoid oil starvation, a Mishimoto oil cooler with sandwich plate and SPA design oil temperature and pressure sensors. Prior to this, I was seeing an easy 130 degrees C on track. When I was first tracking the S2000, I was getting brakes overheating very badly, so after dabbling with brake ducting and a variety of pads, I'm now running AP Racing 5000 Pro brakes with Carbotech XP10 pads and floating rotors up front. After sorting the fronts, it became clear the solid rear discs were a problem. I carried on melting the caliper seals. I replaced them with RX-8 calipers and vented Mustang GT rotors in the back. Then I added a Delta Lima brake stopper to reduce firewall flex under braking. More recently, we've done a little light weight reduction by removing the idle air pump and the air conditioning system and putting in Sparco seats. I'm currently running KWV3 coilovers, although I've changed the springs from the standard 8 to 11 up front and 10 in the rear. The valving cope's okay, but I'm probably going to swap them out for something more track focused at some point in the future. All the bushes on the lower control arms have been replaced with hardened rubber spoon parts after having to cut them out. The upper control arms, tie rod ends and toe arms have been replaced with hard race parts for adjustability. Recently I also replaced the 110,000 mile engine and transmission mounts with new hardened rubber spoon parts as well. The tyres are Yokohama AD08RS on NK PF01 wheels with 235s in front and 255s in the rear. On the alignment side, everything's been done by Alamy Motorsport based at Dollington, who've done an awesome job. The current setup is -2 degrees 45 minutes of camber up front, with 5 minutes of tow out each side. The caster's running at 7 degrees. The back is -2 degrees 30 minutes of camber, with 10 minutes of tow in on each side. Currently, I'm very happy with the setup. I won't spend some more time on track before tweaking it. That said, I might get a lightweight battery because they're really shiny and who doesn't want to shed another 15 kilos, right? While, of course, there is no timing on track days, we can look at the videos after the fact, right? This is one of my earlier, slower laps in the day, and as you might hope, there was a decent amount of progression between this one and the laps I managed to get in later on. Despite a lot of sim time at Silverstone, the reality of the circuit, the traffic and the changed handling of the car was quite a bit for me to get used to. As I noted earlier, I never got particularly happy happy with my line, gearing or throttle application through this section of track. This lap ended up at 2 minutes 49.73 by my estimate, and it was one of the faster laps from the earlier part of the session. Most of them were in the kind of mid-50s, thereabouts. Of course, as the day wore on, I got a bit more confident and started exploring the envelope a little bit more. So, a few mistakes were made, but Silverstone is pretty forgiving, with lots of runoff. Later in the day, things began to hang together a little bit better. Of course, I wasn't the only one driving on the day. My dad started off quite tentative, having not driven the track and not driven the car very much before either. By the end of the day, my dad was seeming a lot more confident, happy to get the car into a place where the tyres were squealing, and really seeming to enjoy himself. It was a great day out, and I'm really looking forward to getting out on track with my dad again at some point in the future, and out on track at Silverstone as well. I'm going to close out with my least slow lap of the day that I managed to put together, which was in the mid 2:45s. Enjoy. This one finished up at 2 minutes 45.4 by my reckoning, and I'll catch you next time.